Hello class, this is Mrs. Albritton of Albritton's Math Class, AMC. So today we're going to take a look at a video for the Unit 2 study guide in order to help us prepare for the assessment that's coming up. Now the first section is going to be on polynomial operations. We're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing these polynomials. So for number 1, simplify each expression. Notice that we have a trinomial plus another trinomial. Now we already know that when we are adding and subtracting polynomials, basically we're just combining like terms. So let's go ahead and apply that. First thing I see that I've got an 8n cubed, and then I've got a negative n cubed. So I'm going to just write those together. Let me just put those next to each other so I'll see exactly what I'm doing here. So here's my n cubes. I've taken care of this and that one. Now I see a 2n squared, and I see I'm adding a 14n squared to that. So I'm going to combine those. I'm just going to write them together, group them using parentheses, so I can see clearly what I'm doing. So I've used up this one and that one. Next I've got a negative 9n, and I'm going to add an 11n to that. All right, so notice that I put all my like terms together, my n cubes, my n squareds, and my n's. Now let's go ahead and combine them. So 8n cubed minus n cubed will leave me with 7n cubed plus 2n squared and 14n squared. That gives me 16n squareds plus negative 9n plus 11n. That gives me 2n. So my final answer for this problem is 7n to the third plus 16n squared plus 2n. There's my answer for the first problem. And all I did was combine like terms. Let's take a look at number 2. Same process. So I'm looking for my like terms so I can combine those. So here I've got negative 8x squared, and I look for an x squared term over here. It's a negative 4x squared. So when I combine these two, I end up with negative 12x squared. I have negative 8x to the 5th and another negative 8x to the 5th. When I combine those, I get negative 16x to the 5th. And then I don't have an x cubed over here to combine with it. I've got an x to the 4th, but they're not like terms, so they do not go together. You can't combine those, but we'll just bring them down. So I've got my 5x cubed, and I've got my 6x to the 4th. So I've used up all the terms. What I'm going to do at this time is put them in standard form, which means I'm going to put them in descending order, starting with the highest exponent. And this is what I mean. So my final answer is going to be negative 16x to the 5th, because that's the largest exponent. Then I'll go ahead and do my plus 6x to the 4th, because that's the next one, minus 5x to the 3rd, or cubed, minus 12x squared. So this is my final answer for number 2. And then for number 3, same process. So let's see what we have. We've got negative 5v to the 3rd and a positive 5v to the 3rd. They cancel each other out. That means I don't have any more v to the 3rd or v cubed terms. I have, let's see, I'm going to go to the next highest exponent. So I've got 9v squared, but none over here. So I just need to just bring that down. I've used up that one. I have a negative 13v, but no v term over here that I can combine with it. But I do have two constants. I've got negative 11 and negative 12. Together that gives me negative 23. So here is my final answer for number 3. And we've used up all of the terms. And we combine what was alike. All right. Let's look at the next section. Here it says find each product. So here we're multiplying these polynomials. And notice we got a binomial times a binomial, the same here. But here we've got a binomial, which is 2 terms, times a trinomial, which is 3. This is going to require the process of distributive property. We got to distribute everything and do the multiplication that way. And then we'll combine any like terms if there are any and finish up our problem. So let's look at number 4. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and just do one at a time. Well, you have to do one at a time, but in order for me to stay focused on what I'm doing, I like to sort of just cover one up and sort of move it out my way, so to speak. So I'll sort of just cover this one up, and then I'll do my 5x times 5x and 5x times 3. That helps me to keep up with what I'm doing. So 5x times 5x is 25x squared. 5x times 3 is 15x. So I finished with the 5x. Now I'm gonna sort of cover this to get it out my way, or out of my sight. And then I'll do negative 4 times 5x is negative 20x, and negative 4 times 3, that's negative 12. So I've actually distributed each of these terms to each of those terms. Now I'm gonna look at my result and determine if there's any like terms that can be combined. If there are, we have to combine them. So here I see there's no other x squared, but I do have a 15x minus a 20x. So I'm gonna bring this down since it doesn't have any other x squared here. But when I actually combine these, I end up with a negative 5x, because 15 minus 20 is negative 5. And then the minus 12 comes down. So here's our answer for that problem. Let's take a look at number 5, same process. So I'm sort of get this one out my way, and then I'm going to distribute the negative 4x times each of those terms. This will give me negative 32x squared, and this will give me a positive 4x, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Now let's do the 3, same process. 3 times 8x, 3 times negative 1. That will give me 24x, and that will give me minus 3. Now what can I combine? I see a 4x and a 24x in the middle, so I'm going to bring everything else down, combine that, and I will get a positive 28x minus 3. So here's my answer for that one. Okay, let's get these. These are long. Just a little bit longer. Same process though. So we'll do them one at a time. But this time I'm going to multiply 2n times 3 different terms. Let's do it. 2n times 7n squared, that's 14n to the third. Because I've got an n times an n times an n. That's one of them, that's 2 of them. So that gives me n to the third. 2n times 3n, that's going to be 6n squared, because I've got an n times an n here. And then 2n times negative 6 is negative 12n. So that's only the 2n. Now I need to do the same with my 8. So the process doesn't change. It may get longer, but it's still the same process. 8 times 7n, that's going to give me, let me get some room here. So that will be, let's see, 56n squared. Let's see, 8 times 3 is 24n. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. All right, squeeze that in. What can I combine here? This is a long polynomial string, so be careful. I don't see any more n to the thirds in that list, so this just comes straight down. 6n squared, there's another n squared, the 56. So together, that's going to give us 62n squared. Negative 12n and 24n will give me a plus 12n. And then the negative 48 doesn't have any other constant that I can put with it. That means we're done with this problem. And lastly, let's get this one. Same thing. Same thing. So let's do this. 3n times 7n, that's 21n to the third, because n and then 2 more. So n times n times n is n to the third. 3n times 5 is negative 15n squared. 3n times negative 4, negative 12n. So So I've done the 3 times each of those terms, the 3n. Now I need to do the -2. -2 times 7 is, n squared is 14n squared. And notice I put a minus sign, a negative, because it's a negative times a positive. Negative times a negative is a positive 10n. Be careful with those negatives and positives. Remember your integer rules and how they work. And -2 times -4 is +8. Can I combine anything? Well, let's find out. There's no other n cubed, so keep 21n cubed as is. Here's the n squared, there's another one. -15 and -14, that's -29n squareds. -12n plus 10n, -2n plus 8. So here is our answer for number 7. Okay, now we're going to take a look at polynomial division in the next video.